ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome, with a resounding round of applause, Thuli Zuma!
Good evening, everyone. I'm so happy to be here tonight. I feel so honored to have the privilege of sharing the stage with Belitha. And I want to thank you all for coming tonight, because there are numerous places you could have been. You chose to be here with us tonight, and I don't take that for granted, so thank you very much. I'm struggling with a cold. Please excuse me. There are a million ways I could have died before I even got here. Before I was a dream soft in my mother's elbows, I could have died a hello in my father's throat. Not yet blooming, swallowed down, had he failed his courage and not planted it in the soil of my mother's smile, I could have died a promise. Hushed under my grandmother's tongue stayed a quiet nothing plump in my own non-existence, had she not dared to take my grandfather's hand. There is a universe of decisions expanding behind me. Each star, a yes, could have so easily been a no. The lines between them, the impossible and inevitable path leading me here. There are constellations behind you two, a choir of choices singing you forth your birth, an assertion of your unstoppableness, that unkillable light that would not stay silent, but willed itself breathing through the holy survival of centuries of great-great-grandmothers and the great-great-grandfathers they laid with. You have already won. We are the lucky ones. We are the ones here. There are a million me's that could be breathing in my place. Galaxies of alternate possibilities huddled in my DNA, and tonight I breathe for them too. Unlock the wind in these bones. This storm was never meant for me to keep. Unhinge the cage of this chest and let it swing wide. Reckless with living, let death find me open. Wine poured out for the feast. There are too many versions of this story in which the taunting mouth of fear keeps me quiet. But if I do not speak, who knows what stars possible blooming I silence? So let it never be said that I was one to ration out this heart's good and blessed uproar, that I kept myself untouched, wrapped and unscuffed by this world, saving myself for some special occasion. Life, that's the special occasion. So if the question be sky, let the answer be love. And if the question be break, let the answer be dance. And if the question is now, let the answer be yes, and yes, and yes, echoing the bright song of your shining red pulse, singing always, yes. My work, as my life does, straddles the space between the now and the not yet, what is fated through being preordained and what is destined through our own actions. And if you will indulge me, I would like to share with you a story I really love. It's one of my favorite stories. It is a old Mesopotamian tale. And in it, a rich merchant decides he wants to throw a feast. So he sends his servant to the market to go and get provisions. Not long after the servant left, he's right back, and the nigger is shook. Like, he is terrified. And he tells the merchant, right, I was at the marketplace, I was trying to do the things, and I just felt this cold chill up the back of my neck, so I turn around and I see death staring at me with the most menacing look I have ever seen. So I need you to give me your fastest horse so I can ride it all the way to Samara where death won't find me. And the merchant says, of course, take my horse. So the man jumps on the horse, doesn't even change his clothes or pack a lunch. He just starts riding in the direction of Samara. And with the speed of the horse and the distance of the town, he'll arrive in Samara just before midnight. The merchant is upset and put out because he wanted, thank you, to throw a party, and now he's got no one to do his groceries or cooking, because heaven forbid a rich merchant just cook for himself. So he marches off to the marketplace to look for death. He arrives, he finds death, Nangembela, taps him on the shoulder, death turn around, and the merchant is like, bruh, what's good? Why are you out here terrorizing my servants? And death goes like, listen, it's a total misunderstanding. It wasn't a look of menace, it wasn't a threat. I was just so surprised to see the guy here because I have an appointment with him in Samara at midnight. And I really love that story, and when I first heard it, I was like, yeah, that's it. You can't escape your death. No matter what you do, the time and date is written. But the older I get and the more I think about it, I like to think that none of us would really be here if we hadn't disappointed death once or twice already. And so I like to think that even though I know we're all headed through that wide door that everyone must walk, but death will win in the end. But I like to think we give him a run for his money while we're still here. This next poem is titled, Every Day Something Has Tried to Kill Me, which is a line out of a Lucille Clifton poem. The first time I knew I had eluded death, I was 4 and terrified, cowering behind the empire of my mother's legs. Gunshots did not erupt into a bloodthirsty applause the moment we stepped off the plane, the way an older woman I trusted said they would. The year was 1990, and after an entire life lived in exile, I was, for the first time, coming home. A thing I was certain we would be killed for. A fact I spent the entire flight from Zambia to South Africa weeping over. But to my surprise, we stepped off the plane and out of the airport, and to my amazement, I did not die. And to my amazement, I have not died. All the evidence I have collected over these 3 decades point to one irrefutable fact. I'm unkillable. And if it is so, what business have I cowering behind myself, terrified of this world and this life's infinite heartbreaks? And if it is not so, if the historical trajectory of bodies like mine is to be followed, if science is to be believed over my brash and youthful confidence, then praise all that has failed to silence this breathing. Praise the death threats, the voice which clawed over the phone, are your parents home, little girl, we're going to kill them, we're going to kill you too. Praise the threat that did not turn bullet. Praise the bullets, skittish graze. Praise the hands which tried to pry open the 3 windows of the bedroom but stopped before they reached the 4th, which did not lock. Praise the close call, the near miss, The flames which engulfed the flat the one night me and my sisters were out. The neighbors told the firemen my mother had lost her mind, that there were children trapped in the blaze. So unheard of it was for her to be without us. They would not believe her when she said, "They're at the circus." Praise the almost. Praise the crash that wrote off the car but loosed its rigid jaw that I might walk out unscathed. Praise this bearable sadness. The shadows which had me clawing at my own stomach, hungry for a glimpse of my pulse's red ribbon poured out. I once heard a man say, "You are only here because what doesn't kill you, it doesn't kill you." So praise all that has not killed you. Praise the whale mouth of the Atlantic, which has spat you out as many times as it has swallowed you. Praise this heart not yet failing. Praise the death not yet come. It will come one day. Praise that that day is not now. Praise each day that breaks open a fall. Praise each pomegranate moment bursting with infinite possibilities, until that moment you burst open yourself and push at last the palms of your final breath into the sky. Praise the sky. Give thanks is living. Praise the next breath's inevitability. Praise this fragile invincibility. Praise it as long as you are alive. Thank you. I would like for these next two poems to invite my dear friend Spotsile Mbane up to stage. If you guys would have a It's difficult to think about the ways in which we escape death without also considering the constant threat of violence we are under as Black people, also as Black women. The statistics are frightening, and looking at the statistics alone, that tells me that everyone in this room has proximity to that violence, either through direct experience or indirect experience of a loved one, or as a perpetrator. I myself was a victim of assault a number of years ago. I went to the SAPS to report it, and I have to tell you that trying to lay a case of assault with the South African Police Service was as traumatic an event as the assault itself, if not more, because they had to keep retelling it to officer after officer as they called each other, and found it very amusing. So I did what any good poet might do with a traumatic event. I wrote a poem about it. Ruining the office furniture, your slow drowning, making everyone uncomfortable. 18 hours before that, a man you did not know had you pinned against your car, your keys and wrist in his tight grip. The police did not want to open a case, a waste of time, they said. What was the harm, really? Where was the crime? You were a burning silence then. But now, you are a woman, driving down a highway. Wait. What does that sound? And it is a full second before you realize it is coming out of your own mouth. You try to turn on the windscreen wipers, but the car is filling from the inside. You are a howling rage, unfolding sorrow. The memory of every hand that has gripped your body snatches at the air. You cannot breathe. There are too many to count, but there are no cases, so they were not crimes. You are a woman now. You don't believe in God the same way you used to. Still, you drop to your knees and pray. He remains the only man whose hands you haven't feared in the dark. In the period from October to December 2021, there were over 11,000 reported cases of rape. And that's for a crime that we know is grossly underreported. Still, in 3 months, there were over 120 cases reported every day. This poem is titled Luck, and it is after Roger Benir-God and his poem of the same title. A woman, if she is lucky, will learn the weight of her own swinging fist. The power with which it calls for blood beckons the bridge of the nose a bright red song. She will understand her nails as keys. Study how they unlock skin from flesh, unhinge the eye from its socket. She will call her knee conductor. See how when thrust in the soft of the belly, the groin, it pulls from the throat, a low moan in the key of agony. A woman, if she is lucky, will learn how to Swiss Army knife her body, a tool for every situation. If she is lucky, she will come to this knowledge before she needs it. Luckier still, and she will not ever need it. A woman knows when she is outgunned, understands silence as means of survival, learns the strength it takes to succumb, to still the body, to swallow the voices roaring violence, to hush the blood's rising fury, to stay, to quiet, to survive. To woman is to survive. A woman always survives, though some have more luck than others. or rather perhaps irresponsible, to look at one form of violence without considering all the other systems of violence we live under. Violence, like everything, does not exist in a vacuum. We suffer under imperialist violence, white supremacist violence, state-sanctioned violence. We live under an inherently violent economic system. And there is no way we can condone, ignore, even support all of these types of violence and these systems of power and institutions of violence, and then not expect it to find its way into other aspects of society. This next piece is titled "The Emperor Has No Clothes." It is a poem in 4 parts ending in "The world we want if we decide we want it." A fable. In a story penned for children centuries ago, the emperor of a great empire wants the finest and most luxurious clothes, an outfit made for him befitting of his station. 2 weavers promise to make for a handsome price finery so magnificent, only the greatest of society will be able to see it. On the day the emperor is to parade down the streets in his new outfit for the adoration of his subjects, the 2 weavers, 2 con men really, arrive with nothing in hand. Still they make an elaborate show of dressing the emperor in his new clothes. When it is all said and done, the emperor stands in front of his gilded mirror, utterly naked. But he dare not admit it. The weavers did warn that only the greatest of society would be able to see the clothes. So if he cannot see them, well, he doesn't consider that he is the emperor. So down the street he walks. And the people ooh and the people ah, such marvelous clothes, they say. For who can risk to admit they don't see a thing of such immense value? And what would that say about their own? 2, a confession. I have never seen the economy, never touched its hand or glimpsed its shirt. They say it came with coins from the West, sent by its god capitalism. They say that without it, we cannot eat, or clothe ourselves, or go to school to get a job, or a better job, or a better job, or a better one. So dutifully, I serve the economy. Though I've never seen it put food on the table, never once heard it sing a lullaby to a drowsy child, or offer a hymn to a grieving heart. I've never seen the economy scrub a floor, or drive a bus, or descend kilometers into a mine's dark and narrow mouth. I've never seen it cut sugarcane or harvest corn, never seen it wake before dawn, leave its children asleep in order to begin a 2-hour commute to somebody else's lavish house to serve their children breakfast while its own has only sugar water before school. I've never seen the economy teach a class, or build a house, or unblock a toilet, or sew a dress, or mend a shoe, or pave a road. I've never seen it sit in a factory assembly line, never seen it insert an ivy line, or cook a meal, or paint a sunset, or plow a field. This economy that the rich talk about, this economy that the state bails out, this economy that must not fail, that cannot fail, that says hard work will be rewarded with riches, and then, after an 18-hour day of back-breaking labor, awards a man with barely enough bread to call a loaf, while far above him, from the efforts of other men's labors, some emperor with a gilded mirror makes billions of dollars, never having lifted anything heavier than his own thumb. If it is real, the economy, the emperor's new clothes, show them to me. Hold them up to the light, point them out. Not the oohs and ahs of the crowd or the noblemen that walk plump and satisfied beside him. 3. A history. A pyramid scheme is defined as a type of scam where success of a non-existent enterprise is fostered by paying out those who bought in first. We are all already too late here. The pyramid is built and we are at the bottom. We will never see our returns. But there was a world in which we had our wealth. Back when we had our land, we ate and we dressed, we danced and we drank, we learned and loved, and that was the labor of our hands. Our work was to look to each other's well-being. There was no economy, only freshly turned earth, clean running water, the sweat of our brow and the moon's constant pull. There was no economy, only the idea that if there were enough hands to reap the harvest, then hunger need be the only currency to qualify you to be fed. Because in our mother's tongue, family began here and ended when the very last amongst us was taken care of. A community of open palms, each hand washing the other, back when we had our own gods. Now, the god of capitalism points to the economy, says it doesn't matter how much grain spoils in the silo, how much milk sours on the shelf. What matters is if you have the money to buy it, and so we toil every day at its altar. Capitalism doesn't provide for our basic needs, it profits off of them, exploits our fears, holds us hostage with the threat of homelessness and hunger, while holidays homes sit empty and 1.3 billion tons of food rot in landfills every year. Because giving it away to the hungry would hurt the economy. So every year, 9.1 million people starve to death so the economy can eat. And we sell the only thing left to us, the very measure of our lives, time. Even though none of us know when ours will run out, we sell our time to make money, to keep us fed, with the hope that one day we will make enough money to buy back the time we sold in the first place, and we are told it is a magnificent garment. For a prayer. In the story, it is the child not yet inducted into believing the words of rich men over the sense of her own eyes who finally breaks the spell. She points at the emperor's naked body parading down the street, the shame of his pomp and pretense, and she shouts, "He's not wearing anything." The emperor has no clothes. And once the people have heard it, they cannot unhear it. So the people stop pretending. They laugh at the absurdity of the naked emperor, note that without the farce of his throne, he is merely a man who would bleed as they do. The emperor flees the city and the ruse is over. All power belongs to the people. It always has. It always will. All power belongs to the people. 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 And it is over if we say it is. Choose your Thanks, sis. This poem is called Idili at the End of the World. It is after Sherman Alexie. To her monthly society meeting. And all the black women there are dripping in jewels, mined, then profited away from the land of their birth. I'm told by many of you that I must get over it, and so I shall. When those jeweled women dance an ancient spell, and no one is hungry, and no one has a child to bury, or a loved one to mourn, or a hope they cannot afford, when they make of their joy a formidable magic. I'm told by many of you that I must get over it, and so I shall. When that magic summons forth from the Ngome every drop of blood that made it run red, gathers it into a ferocious storm which roars down on every centimeter of stolen land not yet returned. I'm told by many of you that I must get over it, and so I shall. When that crimson downpour causes every pair of white lips raised on the milk suckled from black breasts to fall open in spite of itself and speak at last the appropriate praise or prayer or apology. I'm told by many of you that I must get over it, and so I shall. When the chorus of that rain seeps into the ground, seeking out every misreported body silenced in an unmarked grave, I'm told by many of you that I must get over it, and so I shall. Once the first drop of that scarlet rain meets the ocean, and all the bones dazzling its floor, freedom marched out, the glorious waves of them clothed in flesh, raised fists of the deepest black, each of them speaking their name aloud, like they never left, because they never did, and the jeweled women on the shore saying, you are whole, you are holy, you are home, and you always have been. When every beach is a teeming December 31st infinity of black, glistening in the sun. I'm told by many of you I must get over it, and so I shall, on that day. As Solomon Mahlangu's mother looks out her kitchen window, sees the high white walls stained red with rain, and smiles, begins to prepare an elaborate meal because she knows at last her son is coming back home. It's difficult to talk about or think about all that is lost or taken without also thinking about language. It is not lost on me that I am a Zulu poet who performs exclusively in English. And that, you know, is a result of a kind of violence too. How? So this is a poem titled Love Letter to My Language. All day long, I am drowning in English. Emails, SMSs, phone calls. I can barely breathe for all the English pouring out of my nose. Can barely move for the limits of this language. My mother asks me, how are you? Fine, I reply. But that isn't quite what I mean, so this time I try it again a different way. In Zulu, I say, Ngikona. I am here. which is to say nothing has killed me yet. Is that not cause for celebration?
What's that way?
My every breath, a prayer of gratitude. You call, I'm here,
What?
present and accounted for. Before, I might have said, how is life treating you? But today, I ask my father, how is life carrying you? Because blood is thicker than water, and this life, it's thicker still with the breath of all those who came before. An object will float if it is placed in a fluid less dense than itself. Zulu says the burden of keeping afloat is not yours.
Hey.
Live and let the water do its work. A different time and the boy may have said, I like you. Different place, maybe even I love you. But here, the boy says, Yamtanda. And it doesn't matter that we've only just met. Zulu leaves no room for gray area, no degrees of the heart. To like is to love. To love is to love. There is no way to be a lukewarm lover in this, the language of my grandfathers. Love is all there is, so why be stingy with purpose? It is what we are made from, what we are made for. Outside of this moment, I miss you may have floated from my lips. But here, I whisper, Yakubu, I remember you. If I recall you to mind, how can the knowledge of my back not ache for the memory of your hand upon it? Ginesu Sako, I have your loneliness. What I am trying to say is everything you long for, I carry with me too. My heart nurses a hole only your lips can fill. For years, I twisted my mouth into a language not of my mother's. Tried loving in a foreign tongue, but English hasn't enough hands to hold all this honey. My heart blooms for you. Zulu put a grace I did not know I had lost under my tongue. Gave me a more honest way to move through the world. Gifted me language for the kind of love sown in my bones and words to name the harvest. English gave me a cup when my love was an ocean. Made a messy lover of me, always spilling over myself, but I needed space to let all this love breathe. So I asked for a forest, and isiZulu broke open the sky. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. Thank you. Thank you to CSP. Thank you to Leano Restaurant. Thank you to the wonderful band. Yes, absolutely. Thank you to my dear friend Spall. Thank you to the heckler, my sister, who we are also celebrating today. This is going to be my final piece.
No way.
Thank you guys again. You know, life is hard sometimes, but I'll be honest, I'm really chuffed I'm alive, and I'm really glad you guys are too. Thank you so much for being here to share with us today. Albert Einstein is credited with one of my favorite quotes. He says there are two ways you can live this life. One, as if nothing is a miracle. Two, as if everything is a miracle. And the second one isn't easy, but I have to be honest, I do see miracles everywhere I go, and so I think the very fact of us even being here is a little bit of a miracle. The chances of you being here, of you existing at all, they are so incredibly slim, so inconceivably small, it is practically impossible. And yet, here you are, in the flesh. Like, what are the chances? What are the chances my mom would be born at all, let alone born herself, mover of mountains and bender of steel? What are the chances she would meet my father, who, in defiance of all probability, was born himself, charmer of stakes and weaver of magic? What are the chances they would meet in a country neither of them was from? That they would be in the same city, in the same building, at the same time, in the same room, and both of them single? What are the chances? What are the chances that they would even speak to each other? That they would continue speaking to each other? What are the chances that they would come to love a complete stranger? Love them enough to want to have sex with them with the intention of falling pregnant? And what are the odds that they would indeed fall pregnant? And then do it again, and then do it again. Then do it again. I'm number 3. And how wildly unlikely that of all the trillions of possibilities, you would be the embryo to stick. That you would survive thus far in this place of sharp edges and heartbreaks. Now just think, all of that, it had to happen for your grandparents too. And their grandparents, and their grandparents, and their grandparents, and their grandparents before them, all the way back to the dawn of humankind. You are the result of an unbroken lineage of the most unlikely lives. 2 million years of impossible odds dominoing one after the other in your favor. That you have managed to be you here. It is laughable. It is statistically unattainable. It cannot be done, and yet here you are.
What are the chances?
Disaster of dreams, glory of good genes, symphony of sinew and song. Nobody gets that lucky. Nobody rolls all 7s on a 1,000,000,000-sided dice. Unless, of course, you do. Which, of course, you did. The truth is, it could only have ever happened this way. There is no other explanation. It had to be you. It had to be you. You have to have happened on purpose. Thank you.